All right, welcome back to The Devil in Detail, the Grendel Reread podcast. I'm Eli.
I'm Ben. It's episode 41, part 2 of Devil Child. Wow.
That's right.
Sad stuff.
Amazing, but amazingly written. Sad, potent, pertinent.
We ended our first episode on just like real downer notes. This one we said is less sad. Before we get into the sadness, Eli, tell me about your week. What did you do?
Oh, it's been another crazy one. I finally have it almost completely finished, my Ween Zine Star Trek comic. We were just talking about it before. I'm super proud with it. It's right on the screen right now in glorious multicolor. Just super excited with where that's been. Another great week of reading comics, preparing image grand design. I may have possibly planted the seeds for TMNT grand design in a recent post. I think that it's a good possibility that I'll try to pursue that a little bit as a just an informal kind of like fun side project thing. That's what I always say. Talked more with Brendan, our friend, about Oh Fuck Why and some marketing methods, packaging deals that we're trying to come to with Oh Fuck Why. That is awesome. Been doing a lot of reading and writing. My brother got me this amazing book. It's very, it can be none more black, but it's called Sunrise Chicago.
Okay.
Very studious.
About Sun Ra?
Yes. And his life in Chicago and the many places that he frequented there. Super amazing stuff. Very I don't know how you would say it, collegiate, very like well written, studious, like written by a University of Chicago, for lack of a better term, smart person. And so it's like it's very wordy and bodacious. So I'm enjoying it. As always, filtering in creativity and trying to put it out into the world, buddy. What about you? What you been up to?
Sounds good. I'm good. My baby is 3 weeks old.
Baby.
So we're doing mostly that, but I am finding time to work on my projects. I yesterday I finished penciling the first issue of Mystic Connecticut Gateway to Awesome. Now I said I'd finished it before, but that was before there was an additional 20 pages tacked onto it. So it's going to be a 50 page first issue with maybe an 8-page tipped in zine.
That's awesome.
Which hasn't been made yet, but I did that. And I've got, I'm on a self-imposed pretty tight deadline to finish penciling the rest of it. But like I was always saying, that the layout sort of became pencils. So the majority of it is ready to go. It just needs some design work with the gutters and, getting the panel borders the way I like them.
Nice.
And that's really it. I am planning on starting to pencil Oh Fuck Why issue 2, hopefully by the end of the first week of March, which is probably around when this episode will be airing. And I'm filled with gratitude for being able to do the creative stuff that I want to do with my family around me.
Hell yeah.
That's it. What a awesome. Happy note to get into a happy comic book with. Hit me with the intro and let's do it.
The devil is my best friend. On the roads with the pen to the fork end, or till time end. Like Orion, Jupiter, my kin, bloodline private. We control the whole shit. The wolf won't beef, then we feast off the rip. Behold the devil in detail. Behold the devil in detail.
All right, we're back. Thanks for the intro again, Manus and Laserdisc. I spent a lot of money on Pokemon cards the other night on one of Manus's lives. It was so dumb. I had a few drinks. I ended up getting a pretty good card. It was like gambling. I actually felt really great. I also wanted to send go ahead.
Cards are hot right now. That's like
Pokemon cards are huge. Yeah.
Marvel cards are even bigger from what I hear.
Really? Oh my God.
Marvel
man,
cards are
needs to
big.
get into that.
How's your Marvel cards?
I have none. I have the old ones, maybe.
Yeah, the old ones.
I have a couple
What's this, Tim
Flair
Sale?
ones. Yes, Tim Sale 2020 art book just came in from Essential Sequential. I think you can still get it off their website. Just another beautiful tome of amazing. Oh crap. Thank you to our backers. I forgot that I got my name put in the back here. I backed the Kickstarter.
You're a published backer.
All right. Another
That's exciting.
just Tim Sale's work is so just I love it. Tanisha, it's one of her favorite Jokers. It came with, and she might even get a Joker tattoo, honestly. Oh, pretty sweet Grendel there.
Always nice with the ink wash. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
He's it's like a fine wine. It gets more refined over time.
It really does. I agree with that. Tim, shout out to you. Much love on the amazing art this week. They keep talking about this black and white version of this book that they sent out to people. I would love to see that. Love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The funny thing is with the Teddy Christiansen colors is that the dry brushing is so precise and the flats are so even that I honestly like I'm sure it's done by hand, but it could also be digital.
Yeah, like they took.
And I'm like embarrassed to say that, and I'll be embarrassed to ask because like I want to assume that it's not. I assume it's by hand, but it's so like the dry is so evenly grained. It's really unbelievable.
Yeah, everyone's work on this comes together so beautifully.
Yeah.
And I want to make note here of Tim's dedication on page 1 here. It says, for Matt and Diana, the first to show interest and just look where it's led. Super interesting. Like we know that Tim got some of his first work at Kamiko, and I think it was on, it was like doing some inking with Mage, but we'll get more into that next week.
Yeah. And then what's up with the covers? It's Tim's sketches that Matt painted and colored penciled and
I guess so. Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, it does say Tim and Matt. Another
really
beautiful
nice
cover.
Yeah, really nice. We've got what's her name? Stacy, old Stacy with her with her Grendel cat. Two damaged, two hard luck souls.
Right. And we get an intro here from Devil by the Deed. I'll just read it out really quickly. Was Stacy Palumbo a victim, or was she now equally stained? Although sympathy flourished, the very premeditation of her acts led authorities to have her institutionalized. There she was to stay for the next 11 years. Her infamous eventual release and subsequent marriage to her therapist, Eric Oliver, is now one of the greatest of public tragedy yarns. Of their honeymoon night, Eric Olivier, for reasons still unknown, brutally raped his young bride and then hung himself in the shower. Refusing to abort the conception of this tragedy, Stacy maintained her disintegrating hold on reality only until the birth. From Christine Spar, her daughter. And we open on a as equally as grisly image as last week. Stacy's innards are being ripped. It explodes like a sharp toad kick to the belly, as we see here in the operating room, in the birth chamber.
Yeah, we've got this beautiful splash close up, and the thing that always gets me is like the teeth and like the strain lines on her upper lip are so, it's like very feral.
Feral Dalrymple or feral like the word?
Feral like the X-Force character.
Okay. We are going to try to do a little humor, but again, the topic of the comic is very intense.
Oh, excuse me.
A very personal, seemingly to the author, Diana. And
Sure.
who also says that, this is the only full-length story that she's ever written. And it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, this is the one. Well, this birth sequence with the 4-panel sequence up top reminds me a lot. Have you ever seen Steranko's Frogs comic?
Oh, I haven't.
It's an experimental comic that he did probably for one of his magazines in the 70s, and it's about it's very Twilight Zone-y, like a old man being operated on, and his light flashes before his eyes, and his interest in collecting and dissecting frogs, and it's very Twilight Zone-y, but
Interesting.
it has all of these images sort of in the same kind of staccato rhythm.
Right. Like now I know that you were just recently in the birthing chamber.
Yeah.
Did
Well, my thoughts, yeah, thank you for asking, Eli. My thoughts when I read this were that, first of all, my wife did all the work, and she was a champ. And it's really, the thought of doing it in such a sterile environment without being supported is about as scary. I mean, it would seem to me is as scary as they do it here.
Yeah.
And then there's this, there's this nurse who offers Stacy to hold the baby, and she's like the one character providing comfort, and it's very like Alice in Wonderland, distorted and creepy, and very like Pink Floyd The Wall in a lot of ways.
For sure. Yeah, you almost don't know how to feel about her. She has this look that's kind of in between, kind of like menacing and providing.
Yeah. The first full shot of the baby, you can see that Hunter Rose pigment patch has demonically passed down.
Right.
And Stacy doesn't want to hold the baby.
Yeah. I didn't mean to put you on the spot there with the birthing thing, but it's
no. That's what I was thinking. I mean, that's what I was. I mean,
Yeah.
It was tough to read. It's always tough to read this.
Right.
And I read it like the baby was like a week and a half old.
Right. An interesting
last
perspective you have to.
Yeah, I mean, it's really grisly, and like just like the acting on Stacy on this like bird's eye view shot, and it's like super graphic, and she looks awful, and it's scary, and it's sad, and like it's a pretty traumatic image.
Agreed.
But
amazing art and amazing like feelings that this brings you on a whirlwind. And again, I say it every week, but like I felt like I've become so close to Stacy through this Hunter cycle.
Sure.
And it's really gives me the feels for,
And this is a wonderful trend. This story is a wonderful transition from Hunter's saga into Christine. Sure. Did you see the Grendel mask in the blood on the floor?
Yeah, I definitely did. And I'm almost now also seeing it in the way they're holding the baby in like the blanket.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Wow. I thought that was also kind of like vaginal there at the
right.
Like
I mentioned the Pink Floyd animation. It kind of reminded me of that.
Right. It's a little of both.
Weird way.
Amazing. I think that they kind of enjoy hiding the symbol in there, the mask in there a few different times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool that this baby panel is like dead on, flat, symmetrical.
Right.
And then there's just gosh, it's oh boy. All right. Keeps
Next
going.
Page.
That was page 3.
Yes, exactly. Like we're saying, intense. So we're back at the school for girls, I guess. The wayward, I don't know, wayward.
It's like an upscale sanitarium.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. This is how it ends. And I think you can see the time moving. Maybe in this one on the left, Stacy is, I don't know, maybe 16 and sort of in love with her therapist, and here she is years later, gaunt, haunted, catatonic.
Yeah. I feel like the later Stacy could be played well by Tim Burton's wife, who's always so great.
Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
She's got those cheeks.
Yeah. And the eyes, and a lot of times in Tim Burton's movies, she'll play with makeup like that, like really sunken in kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And here we see what we know is something that Diana loves, Matt loves, I love, is cats. And cats can provide this kind of multi-sided love-hate kind of feelings out of people. And so we see this kind of Grendel kitty. And of course, comes and goes, and she says, "Of course it's a man. Of course it's male. All the men in my life leave me." And we
Wonderful
see
Zappa on this spread. Beautiful 16-panel grid playing with. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it 12-panel grids?
yeah. Oh yeah, because the bottom one is a spread.
Yeah.
Oh man. And so the kitty kind of makes himself at home, and then looks for some pets, and then bounces when he doesn't receive it.
That last one, I always like when the cover is reflected in a panel in the book.
Yeah, me too.
Here it's remixed a little bit. It might appear later, but it's a nice. It's like a movie poster that doesn't oversell it. It's like, this is what you're getting. Look, it's like the bell goes off in my head, ding. Like when like whenever the name of the movie is said in the movie, I always ring the.
I love that. Yep. Tanisha, that's one of her favorite things.
Really, really nice.
So the next page, she continues to ruminate on this feeling of men have, always leave. The beast has always been male. We see this Grendelly Eric lording over his cards.
This is a panel in the first issue, I'm pretty sure.
It is, yeah.
It's okay, yeah. It's been remixed here, with it has a different lens on the camera, you know what I mean?
A little more demonic lens.
Mm-hmm.
And so she returns here to what was once Eric's office and now belongs to the new psychiatrist who's there. She's like, "Are you ready to talk?" And here again, we see her only speaking like positively about the experience, about him, like a Stockholm syndrome type of situation.
She's insistent that Eric loved her, and now the bookmark is a specific kind of a flashback from the present, or something like that.
A flashback to some of these other nights that they had together, and they had. It seems like being bound and tied up was this a motif every time, and she's saying he made me feel like a woman. He was very gentle, and in this panel here of him at the bottom of the square panels, his eyes are giving off kind of like they're giving.
There is empathy.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And again, like we're always talking about, Matt's narrators are never reliable. So again, as we're seeing this from Stacy's viewpoint, we're not necessarily sure what is this what she wants to get across? Is this how she's rationalizing things in her head?
Yeah. The other white eye in the third panel of her being held down, like just, it's very, very Wagnerian comics with these black silhouettes, these pops of color, whiter texture.
Right.
All right, very cool.
And so it seems like the psychiatrist lady's trying to get like her to get into the nitty gritty of it, to get into the dirt, but she interrupts her saying like, he loved me. I'm sure of it. On the next page, she continues to comb her hair, this thing that everyone seems to always do to try to comfort her. The woman who brushes my hair, I think her name's Nancy, and she's just another nameless. But then we get a flash here of the moment that for you.
Elizabeth Devon. The graphic match of maybe Nancy doing her hair to Elizabeth Devon placing the bow is very well done, because the composition is the same, and then it hits you with the pink and the white eyes.
Another Grendel mask there again in the water.
Ah, there you go.
Man, there's so many hidden in this one.
There you go.
That's amazing.
Well done.
And then she's like, I have to go. I have a visitor after this rumination on the death of her babysitter. She's like, I have to go. And again, Stacy's still clutching Grendel's books.
Yeah, that's like the tie to the past, the tie to her purpose.
The one last thing she has to offer.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so we see here kind of like a first take. She said, we see a voice off the screen saying, "You didn't answer, so I just came up. Who are you?" "I'm your daughter." And we see a very young, this might be in the early 2000s, you think? Like,
I think it's like 2015. There's
Yeah, probably.
The story ends a year ago last week,
Right. Yeah, that was
which is
interesting. We
crazy.
actually,
Which is crazy.
yeah.
So I think it's right. So this is maybe like 5 or 10 years before the second visit. My thought on the Stacy was that she has kind of a Jill Thompson cast
Yeah, I was
to
thinking,
her.
yeah, for sure.
But that hat is very like
Blossom.
Blossom. Yeah, it's very 90s.
Well, right around this time in the 2000s, 90s style was coming back. So perfect. It was
There
well
you go.
done. Yeah.
So this is their first encounter, and Stacy can't meet her eye. They've taken everything from me. She doesn't even look like Eric. The only thing I have left, like you said, is the journals. That's
Right.
very sad.
And then here we see kind of Stacy like, aren't you gonna say anything? She like kind of gets mad, and Stacy's like, what do you want? Or yeah, Stacy's like, what do you want? And Christine's like, well, I mean, are you like even happy to meet me? Like, what's going on? Why don't you talk to me? Don't you even care? And so we see this kind of play out in Stacy's head, this kind of argument, and then she sees in her that she looks like Hunter.
Mhm.
As she's kind of getting angry at her. We see the flash like again, very Zappa, very cinematic. You can see it kind of just like pop, 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 like flash in and out of like the Hunter. Yeah. And
here comes the unreliable narrator. The last 2 pages are completely remixed, but the layouts are all the same.
Right.
Really cool.
Did he redraw them? He redrew them though. Yeah, definitely.
There's different. There's a few different compositions, and there's a few like totally different panels, but there's a lot of stuff where like the facial expressions are, where Stacy's indifferent. In the first one, she's really happy to see her. In the second, and
I'd like to think that this second one is the one that happened actually, but we can never know. We don't really know.
Yeah, I think it's the first one.
I
also think it's interesting, like what the difference of this is if it plays as a page turn or as a spread. Here, in the floppies that we're reading, it's as a page turn. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that was I'm sure it was, but I would be curious to see what it would look like if it's a spread. Maybe in Omnibus 2 it plays out that way. I'm not sure.
Gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, like because on this spread we see one page of the first scenario and then the first page of the second scenario on one spread. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then she comes back, and this time she's a little bit more, positive, and things end up a little bit better.
More warmth.
Much more warmth. And she said, aren't you bored here? It doesn't seem like there's much for you to do. She said that before. And, she's like, I'm learning the Tarot, which is an interesting thing as well. But then we see Grendel's books again. And as she comes down and sets her head in her mother's lap, we see she becomes the cat. So.
Right. Yeah, so my guess is that the intent here is that the second sequence is sort of how she would have. It's how she remixes the memory.
She wished it would have.
Right.
Out of her head.
Really cool.
But I feel like sometimes I mean because Stacy's kind of stuck in this melancholy that she's unable to make things happen the way she wants. She can't.
Yeah.
Underneath she's screaming or pushing one way, but on the outside because she's unable to care. She's unable to.
Yeah. I feel like this storytelling device is very popular, like on Premiere TV, like Showtime or HBO, or even, like modern kind of shows. And like it goes one way and then everything comes to a screeching halt and then reality replays itself. Like a very, very popular like storytelling trope.
Agreed. Yeah. Well before its time here. This came out in 1999. And we have the great ability to read it all chronologically, but this came out when we were already, deep in the throes of Orion Asante and way forward in the future. So, mm-hmm. All right, we're back in the psychologist room, and they're talking about Christine.
Yeah, this is a new therapist.
Exactly. Yeah, another one. Looks kind of like what Tim Sale's version of the Riddler would look like in the future. Those pants, I think, are just making me think of Riddler. But Stacy's like, I don't have a daughter. But, on the inside, and then on the outside, she's like, she loves me. And do you love her? And Stacy's like, I'm the daughter still. So like in her head, she's still,
Every relationship she's ever had is totally warped and distorted. The duality of memory and experiences played out again with Eric and then Hunter, both of them like holding her chin and making her feel,
in her head, she's almost unable to like ascend out of this like daughterhood feeling, maybe even to like of maturity that was, ripped from her through all these different people who could have helped her mature and kind of like take the next level of life. Each one betrayed her, and so it never allowed her to truly get out of that first like level of life, the daughter.
One of the things that in my life in and around comics I've noticed is that I have the friends of mine that are like into geek stuff, that it's like real lifestyle stuff, Star Wars, Turtles, Batman, like can't get enough of it. Sometimes it seems like it's an expression of parental loss trauma, where the things that were really important to these people when their parents died are the anchors in their lives that make them happy and bring them back to those times. And I think that Stacy in her own way is doing that with these journals.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so on the next page,
it's just going to get darker from here.
Yeah.
God.
We have another another intimate flashback of their time together, of Eric and Stacy.
Right. We were talking, we weren't sure if this was the honeymoon wedding night where he hangs himself or if this is another night. I don't know if it much matters. It's just like they had, kind of twisted sex that she wasn't, a woman who spent her entire life in an institution is not, really ready for it. And also she's like 18, 19 years old.
Right. But for a second here, we see that she kind of like wrestles him and it gets on top.
Right.
So
and she does have agency.
Right. So there's a little bit we see coming through. But then,
there's also this really warped, like symmetry between this part of the story and Hunter's origins with Jocasta Rose.
Oh, yeah, interesting.
In like a George Lucas like rhyming story kind of thing.
Kind of, yeah. But then as she reflects, she feels like, again, like she can't breathe. Mm-hmm. And then she comes back and she's like, what's your name again? She's like, Nancy. And so again, she just can't even trust anyone or anything.
Yeah.
All women are liars. And then we come back.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think that so with the hippie therapist, mm-hmm. These are not the same woman. Like these are different women with similar colored hair.
You don't think this is the lady with the green pants from earlier?
No, this is the one with the leopard stockings, but not the one who's like combing her hair.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
Right. So, because she says, I think her name is Nancy. So it's like time is all muddled and she's reflecting on her whole life. Yeah, and probably, the last pages of that, it's like Frodo and Bilbo. The last pages are for you.
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. Everyone's a liar. All men are liars. All women are liars. This is awful.
And then we see another flashback. They're in the shower and it seems like the only memories she really has with him are these sexual
these like bondage power dynamic.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then the shower head is exactly how he
hung himself later. Yeah.
So there's all this like motif stuff.
Then we see her reflecting on herself, looking at her standing naked in front of herself.
This is kind of a moment of peace. This is like her one,
I think so,
moment of reflection where she's satisfied with like her shape and things like that. Could be worse. I'm not, it's not a bad body for 45 years. So she dates herself. She age dates herself.
Right. So then we could do some math and figure out exactly what year this is. But so she's reflecting here, and then this is a super interesting storytelling right here as the cat sort of morphs in her brain into Argent and says, "You were bad to me, Stacy. You hurt me." And then I didn't even think of that until this similarity showed itself, but she sees a little bit of Argent in this kitty, and he says, what do any of us want? I know what he wants. They all want to take it away from me. And then we see this overhead shot of her cuddling up with the kitty, naked on the ground in the fetal position.
Yeah, this is like an apology to Argent, because she ghosted him and then used him. It's dark stuff what she did to Argent.
It really is.
Really
they were
sad,
so
yeah.
close. They were so close. And then she was completely revolted from him. He was completely, he was so embarrassed and so brought down. And
yeah,
this beast was.
His story is that spends his whole shtick looking for wind in the leaves as comfort. And then when he finally has it, it's wrenched away from him by the devil.
Right.
Again.
All right, so then we're back again. Now we're with the hippie lady, and she says, "You were telling me about Eric." So again, we are kind of like moving around in time, seeing these memories.
Yeah, I mean, it might be two simultaneous therapists, or it could be different periods in her life.
Right
now, the therapist is holding.
Oh, interesting. The book.
A Grendel file, or is it the book, or is there a floppy disk coming out of it, or?
Interesting.
It's sort of hard to say.
Right. And it seems strange that Stacy would ever let it out of her sight or out of her.
Yeah, I think what the cartooning is trying to tell us is that her identity is tied to this figure. She's a footnote in his. Well, she's a chapter in his legacy.
For sure.
Instead of being, her own person.
And again, we flash to another sexual escapade here. It's this voyeuristic view again.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah, it's it's like there's a conspiracy among all men to be pigs. The voyeur watches, the flaneur wants to be watched. And so Eric is talking about, you see that light on, you see that office across the way, that guy is watching us, let him watch us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
boy.
the psychologist is like, do I keep saying the wrong thing? Not psychologist,
well, we don't know. We know that Eric was a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist, yes.
But at this, we can assume at this high-end sanitarium, they have all different kinds of therapists and counselors and psychiatrists and
right. And they all want to probably talk to Stacy because they can get a paper out of it. They could probably write a novel. They could get something. I mean, Stacy still has. I would think that Stacy still has this type of celebrity, crazy person allure to like these doctors because, I mean, she's the daughter of Grendel. Grendel's a worldwide thing. Hunter Rose was a big selling author, so.
Yeah,
I feel like
she's like Anna Nicole Smith's daughter.
Right.
Where it just like ends. It's like skyrocket up, tragedy, end in extreme tragedy, and here we are like 10, 15 years later, and this poor person has to navigate life with her entire life spelled out before her.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, so that might explain why we see a few different therapists here. And so the ending of this sexual flashback is we see the Hunter, we see her seeing him as Hunter and his eyes different and her asking, "What color are my eyes now, Stacy?"
A very knowing question.
Mm-hmm. But then she says, "I love my daddy more than anything in the world." And then immediately something happens where she's like, Stacy, and then she's like, what do you want? And then this is an interesting comment here. She says, oh, Stacy, I just want to take your pain away. And she says, that sounds like rape to me.
Oh, Stacy, I just want to take away your pain. That sounds like rape to me. Like, I don't think we can touch that.
Yeah.
I just if I'll take it at face value. It's super powerful. It's just as haunting as any other panel in this entire book.
Yeah.
Just like the triumph of this book is that it will never leave us.
Yeah. And I think, as we read in the interview with Diana in the Back Issues magazine, it's coming from a place of pain. And who better to write about the pain of a woman than a woman who experienced some pain as well. And so,
yeah. And an editor who is invested in this material and is able to draw connections between the grand design of the tapestry and the writing experience that you have. We're going to see that later on with Marco Decan and Edvin Bukovic, whose names I can't pronounce. The way that they took their war-torn Croatian upbringings, I think, and mixed that into Devil's Choices, maybe.
I think that's it.
It's just, oh God, it's so good. And I think that's those two examples are really speaking to the strength of what this property can do, because you can talk about anything through this like haunted lens, and you can talk about violence and murder and aggression and all the shadow self stuff, but filter it through your own experience. If you want to, wow. Here's Christine.
Yeah.
It's 10 years later. She looks like one of the Endless of Sandman fame.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. I was again thinking Tim Burton. Tim Burton could definitely
for sure,
direct this. Yeah.
Not about this one. Tim Burton would make a hell of a Grendel.
So she's back and she's pregnant, and she looked at me a long while before she spoke. This is a really epic scene. This is really the passing of the torch from the Hunter Rose era to the Christine Spar era. Here's where we really get their connection. Here's where we see that she does look more like Hunter here. And just Tim Sale does a beautiful job of rendering Christine Spar's look. She says hello, and it feels like Stacy knows, what she's here for. She's clutching the journals to her chest and says, "Every priestess needs her Torah."
Yeah, that's a tarot reference. I don't remember what it is. It's a catalyst of change, I think.
Is it a different Torah than I'm thinking of? Like
it's not. It's not the
Tanakh. The H.
Yeah.
We're missing the H there.
Yeah, it's
for it to be our Torah.
It's something else. I think what it is that on the priestess card, she's like standing behind a shield, and there's Hebrew and Latin and like other like alchemical symbols behind it. And it's like TORA is one of at the 4 points.
Oh, interesting. Nice research, man.
Wikipedia.
Great. Yeah.
I don't understand. I mean, we should have Diana talk about tarot next week, because I just I think it's kind of impenetrable unless you need someone to guide you into it. Otherwise, it's this like Carl Jungian, whatever you want to be, symbol trip. Yeah. And I think that it's, from the outside, that's what it looks like. But if you have someone to guide you, it's probably a lot more pointed.
I think so, yeah. And what it means to her and what it meant to bring it into the story here.
Yeah.
So
here's that line again. You've come to take away my pain, which she said, that sounds like rape to me.
Right.
But really, she's talking about you've come to take the journals.
Right, exactly. And now she says, "Oh, I see you'll be a mother soon, in a couple of months." Yes. And here again, Stacy is just immediately, what do you want from me? What do you want? Where did you come here? And it's interesting, they talk about the cat here, but again, she says, what do you want? And then on the next page, we see she's just like, I need to understand my life. I'm here to understand like what you've done, what you've thought about these last 25 years. Like, who am I to you?
So this camera angle is in the teenage Christine visitation scene. Let's see where it is. Yeah, where the first time she comes to visit, when she gets up, aren't you like happy to meet me? It's the
that's
same.
Right.
The camera's in the same space, and
Oh, yep. Her room's a little more deteriorated. It looks like they ripped up the carpet, and now it's colder and more sparse.
Right. Well, what happens is she left the sanitarium with Eric, and they took down all of her clippings, and then they sent her back in, and she didn't put it back up.
Yeah, she never felt that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again,
or Eric was like, "Get rid of this. You don't need this anymore."
Right. Exactly. Burn it.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
And then, or Stacy's kind of just like being this like kind of a little bit aloof, and again unable to voice perhaps what's really inside. And she just says, "At night, I listen to the crickets." Kind of showing that on the outside is the melancholy, and the trip that we're on is mostly inside her head.
Where are you?
Oh, I'm on the next page. This page.
Okay, yeah. Oh yeah. No,
Moving too fast for you?
No, I just didn't see the crickets line.
Oh,
yeah, this is heavy stuff. I don't remember if there's a reference here to Peter Spar being killed yet.
Doesn't seem like it.
That's her husband. I don't know if it's happened yet, but the things that we can sort of assume about Christine's life up until this point is that she's.
Oh, yes, there is, because she says, "I understand what it is to lose the man you love."
Right. Okay. Where is that?
So he did die.
Yeah. So he's already dead, and so she is maybe like a staff writer at the Times, or maybe she's not at the Times. But she's a writer, or of some sort.
Right. And writers have that inquisitive mind. So not only is she trying to come to terms with the death of her husband and the father of her son, but she's also trying to figure out her mother. And then I'm sure learning about the history. And, perhaps when she came the first time, she was a little too young to understand what all her mother had been through. But then as she learned a little more about Hunter Rose and all that, it inspired her to become a writer. And now she's like, I want to know more.
Yeah. These last two panels where Christine stands up, pauses, and then says, "Will you give me his journals?" is very like, all right, cut the shit. Like, what are you really here for?
Yeah. Like she's trying to get something out of her mom. And when she can't, you know how when you want something, you kind of dance around it for a little while, and then you ask, you don't always come right out. So she tried to do that. And instead she's just like, I'll take those. And
while I'm sure it is for this like personal growth reason, she will get a Pulitzer Prize out of the deal.
She will.
And it will be her undoing.
Yeah. Next page, we see these three panels at the top. We see Christine, we see Grendel, and then we see Christine with a powerful gaze. We see Grendel. We don't know if it's her Grendel, we just see the mask. Powerful gaze. And then we see a meager Stacy with the thought, in the end, there was never any choice. And as she stands up and the cat and jumps off of her, scratches her all up. And in a kind of final move, Stacy gives Christine the journals and dies in her arms.
I think she's kissing her. I think she gives her, this is all she wants, the journals. This is what they all want. Everything I have left to give. I can't fight anymore. Because it's like, don't sensationalize. This is my life. If I relinquish this, it's going to get turned into this legend and this book, and this whole thing the cycle is going to turn. The devil must have his due. He'll take us all to hell. Let this one be on his conscience. So she kisses Christine. My thought here on the previous page is when they're standing next to each other, is that like the size difference between the two. That's like very like withered, like crone version of Stacy versus the pregnancy Christine. Reminded me of this like kind of, there's sort of like the Benjamin Button quality that Stacy kind of has.
Right. When
she's young, she's thrust into an adult's life. And she's stunted for it. And then it made me think of Jill Thompson's Stacy story, where she's doing the fairy tale. She's still telling these like Aesop's fables, fairy tale versions of her own life.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's
but yeah, it illustrates.
But it's a thing.
Yeah, it illustrates how, and to me, it seems like Christine Spar must be like 6'5" or something. She's a tall lady, for sure.
Yeah, she becomes a assassin. She takes, I don't know, kendo, judo. She's taking some kind of martial arts class in the beginning of Devil's Legacy. That's the we can believe that she can be Grendel because she has martial arts training.
Right. Then on the next page, we see a snowy hill. It's kind of overcast. It's dark. There's nothing left now. They've taken everything away from me. The pain that fed me all the long years of my life, it's gone too. And this is how it ends. And we come back, the camera moves down the hill, and we see a stretched limousine. We zoom in on the back window as it rolls down, and who do we see but Argent? Yeah. Uncle Argent, who came to see his second favorite human pass on.
And you can see Christine is holding Anson at the grave.
Oh, right. Yeah.
There you go.
Yep. And we come back to her grave, and we see the kitty on there. Stacy Palumbo, Grendel's daughter, born March 30th, 1974, died February 11th, 2020. Alone with the devil. Amazing, amazing, amazing story. Wow.
Yeah. The art team really brings it on this last one because there's so much white, and then there's just some dry brushing and some pitter patter. And
man, Tim Sale does that, man. He could have a completely blank page with something in just like a little teeny corner, and it would be so dynamic, man. I know there's always talk like in the kayfabe group about snow, about like drawing snow and snow comics, and Tim Sale does it amazingly.
Yeah,
his use of white.
Man, well, it's like I'm glad we're done with this, but the story will haunt us forever.
And it's our first taste of really seeing someone's entire life in the Grendel cycle, which we get to see a lot of time. We get to see time pass in the Grendel cycle different than we do in any other comic. Like in X-Men, time passes, but no one ages. Like, we've seen Cyclops go from high school to older, but it's like time doesn't pass. People don't die and the next generations come up. Like in Grendel, and I love that Matt embraced that so much. We really see these characters grow. And again, Stacy, such an interesting, who grew from, like, as Matt said, just an idea to show like a narrative element to show like a duality of Hunter, grew into this amazing character that then spawned the next Grendel and pushed it all forward.
Yeah. That aging idea is also, you can see it in Lynn Johnson's For Better or For Worse, in Frank King's Gasoline Alley, and of course in Dave Sim Cerebus.
Right.
Or Funky Winkerbean does it too, I'm told.
I don't know. I'm not well versed in any of those. Perhaps I'll need to get in.
3 out of 4 are pretty good.
Yeah. The letters column is great here. Again, they sent a black and white version of this off to many people. Included in this one, we get Jamie S. Rich, an amazing breakdown of what he saw. We get JD, someone who kind of doesn't necessarily enjoy it, doesn't think the graphic nature of it all was worth it. He thought it was just for shock. But Diana straight up says, this is less crazy than my script was. And that it was difficult and emotional to draw for Tim, who we see, we don't often think about it. Like when we see this challenging image in a comic, how tough it must have been for the artist to draw it. Again, Tim didn't want to draw something in black, white, and red because of how intense it was, a naked head.
Oh, right, the severed head. Yeah.
Right.
And also, like, as people our age, we're used to seeing Tim Sale draw the Batman Rogues Gallery and Daredevil whipping around and, romance and action and all that stuff. And like, none of that in this story.
No, exactly. And Diana even mentions that this is the third time that Tim's got to draw a Grendel story, but none of the times has he got to draw heroes jumping and swinging and kicking. And we also get a nice story, a nice question from Chris Pitzer. Shout out to Chris Pitzer from Ad House Books. So he has like the list, like number 1 question, number 2 question. Like I love when they do that in letters columns, and then so Diana answers them very nice and
get to the point, right?
Just another great comic in the Grendel cycle, and an amazingly personal story by Diana Schutz. And I'm very interested to learn more about the writing process very soon.
Yeah, we'll have to dig into the tarot and all that. It's going to be interesting to talk to these people who have been killing it for longer than we've been alive.
That's right.
Killing it in comics.
Yeah. We'll leave it there, leave you tantalized with what is to come next week. The week after, we are diving headlong into the Christine Spar saga by the Pander Brothers, art by Pander Brothers, written by Matt Wagner, originally published by Kamiko, and then republished by Dark Horse. So we'll see you next week. Vivat Grendel, and keep on Grendel.